Hello! You know you've hit rock bottom when you're jealous of a rodent's boundary skills. Today's episode brought to you from rock bottom. Why beavers have their shit together and I absolutely do not. Stick with me. By the end, you'll understand how you can redesign your boundaries so they bend under pressure instead of breaking. I'm Pia, and this is Feral by Design, the show where we steal from nature's time-tested strategies and apply them to our messy little lives. And this week, we're going to view boundaries through the eyes of a beaver who doesn't build rigid walls, but systems designed to flex. Here's what I didn't understand until recently. I'm not hopeless at boundaries, I don't think, but I've definitely been approaching them all wrong, making one single demarcation, one rule, and then feeling like a failure when life comes up and breaks it. Let me give you an example. You know that moment when someone says, "Hey, have you got a quick 10 minutes?" And you don't really. And about 45 minutes later, you're still nodding politely while your internal voices are screaming, "Abort! Abort!" That was me again just recently. One quick catch-up that somehow threw out my entire afternoon. My to-do list got hijacked and my following meetings, they cascaded into a sequence of sorry I'm late sin bins. I was left frustrated by myself for yet another boundary fail. So I decided to explore how nature does boundaries to see if I can steal any design genius for myself. If you missed episode 1, welcome to the world of biomimicry, where we steal nature's solutions for our own messes. This time, nature's master boundary builder, the beaver. Let's waddle into their world for a minute. Picture these little hydraulic engineers, their flat tails slapping water, those iconic front teeth that never stop growing, hauling half a tree in their mouths like it's just another day at the office. Beavers aren't building just for fun. From the chaos of a stream or a river bend, they're actually engineering a calm, life-friendly pond. Not keeping water out, but keeping the water in to create the right conditions for themselves. Deep enough to keep them safe from nosy, hungry visitors. Deep enough that when ice comes, they can still reach their underwater food pantry. And stable enough to survive all year round. Safety, comfort, and stability. These are the elements of the beaver's well-being that their dams create and protect. Now, understandably, these little critters need to be energy savvy, right? Because that's some seriously labour-intensive work, lugging logs around all day. So, clever clogs that they are, they don't tend to dam across the whole river. They pick a narrow point where one small barrier can have the biggest impact. Minimal effort, maximum impact. Gotta love that. Once built, they patrol constantly, listening for the sound of water trickling through where it shouldn't be. And when they hear a leak, they don't schedule a repair session. They fix it right there, with whatever's within reach. A mouthful of mud, num num num, a handy twig, done. Low energy, high frequency maintenance. And the materials they use matter. Big logs for structure, flexible branches to bend, and then rocks for anchoring it all in the bed, and glorious mud to seal. When the water pressure rises, the branches bend, the mud compresses, the rocks hold firm. If one fails, the others flex rather than the whole thing collapsing. Having elements that fold isn't weakness, it's flexibility by design. The secret sauce, in my view? These boundaries are semi-porous. They're full of tiny channels for water to quietly trickle through. And these tiny gaps matter for the whole design. Because too rigid and the whole structure blows. Too open or too porous and the pond and their ecosystem will just drain away. So my key takeout? Every part of how a beaver builds demonstrates this same principle, flexibility by design. Multiple layered materials, constant monitoring and adapting, pressure relieving flow, and not taking on the whole river, just placing wisely. All of these serve the same goal, a system that is stronger than the sum of its parts and bends under pressure instead of breaking. Now the fun part. How do we translate that for our messy world? Turns out the mighty beaver isn't just good at one thing: show-offs. They've got several strategies working together, and today I'm going to serve up 3 that I've translated for your mulling pleasure. Food for thought on a tasting plate. Okay, first up, and this completely shifted my lens on boundaries. Beavers don't build dams just to keep water out. They build to keep the right conditions in. Safety, comfort, stability. It's not about blocking everything out, it's about protecting and keeping what's in. So take my laptop example. I used to say no laptop after dinner, trying to keep work out. But that kept breaking because I use my laptop to do creative fun things, like podcasts. So I've since flipped that right around. And I asked myself, okay, what do I need to keep in? Space to stay curious, energy that lasts, quiet that restores me. Maybe for you it's focus or calm or, God knows, just enough mental space to stay sane. Once I stopped focusing on blocking stuff out, I've genuinely found that it's got way easier to spot what actually helps me to thrive. Protecting rather than defending. Subtle but different. Okay, next up, layers. I always treated boundaries like a single rigid line, one rule, one response. No work after dinner, or no screens on the weekend. As if. And whenever I didn't toe the line, it's a fail. Or at the very least, a litany of exceptions just eating away till it's kind of just like this tattered, limp flag on a border that no longer really exists. Now, remember that multi-material genius from the Beaver strategy? That system flexes instead of collapsing. And that's how boundaries really should work. Layered, not linear. Try building one with different responses for varying degrees of pressure. And each one will vary because those pressures come from lots of places, don't they? Sometimes it's people, but other times it's habits, impulses, systems you've built that work against you. And you know what? I don't know if you agree with me, but they're the ones I personally find a lot harder. They're slipperier or something. I'm sure that's a textbook term somewhere. But it's like I'm arguing with my own reflexes rather than with someone else. And that's a tough fight. Okay, let me show you an example of this layering in action and see what you think. Let's take no social media after dinner. If I just made that one rigid rule, no doom scrolling after, let's say, 8 o'clock at night. It breaks the first time I'm bored, or even just muscle memory reaching for my phone. One impulse and the boundary's gone. But if I layer it, first layer is gentle. Silence notifications after 8 p.m. Low friction, and it removes that little pull. Second layer gets a little more structural. Plug the phone in across the room. Now I have to actively, lazy bones, choose to get up and walk over to it. Third layer is pretty firm now, programming focus mode or a third-party app on my phone that blocks social media apps entirely during evening hours. So even if I grab my phone, they won't open. This way, the layers flow with the pressure, each one catching what the previous one has let through. So these examples aren't 3 separate boundaries, they're nested components of the one system. When that first impulse hits and I hear no pings or notifications, that fleeting pressure is absorbed. When the habit kicks in and I actually reach for my phone, it's not next to me. That pressure's redirected. And if I'm in a full-on fight with my own reflexes and lose, walk across the room and grab the phone anyway, the apps are locked. So that's a hard no. You might already be doing this, instinctively adjusting when pressure hits, reactively. What the Beaver's design principle shows us is different. Plan your layers to absorb and redirect pressure smoothly from the start for a more resilient, less reactive and stressful boundary. And now our third one for today, the leaks. Here's where I keep screwing up. Every time I say yes when I mean maybe or even no, or I agree to just one more quick call, sure, a little leak forms. And I ignore it. I let it pile up and then I wonder why everything just floods. We have to really listen for those leaks. For beavers, it's the trickle of water. For us, it's more emotional. It's resentment, guilt, stress, creeping wear-down exhaustion vibe. Or maybe it's physical, tension, fatigue. Either way, those feelings, your leak detector. It might also sound like, hey, I know you're busy, but if you've got 5 minutes, a drip by any other name. Worth noting, this leak maintenance part is hard because a key part of the strategy is we still need to let some things through. I like to call this let the right ones in. The skill is knowing what to let through and what to stop. Be intentional about what flows through. That's the design principle. So here's the shift. Those boundaries you think are failing half the time, some of them may not be broken at all. They're just flexing. You've just been calling that failure because you thought boundaries were supposed to be these rigid lines that never move. So you know what? If that's you, permission to give 2 fingers to that misguided guilt. It never belonged there anyway. And the ones that are breaking, they may be breaking because they're one rigid rule, trying to do all the work. Either way, whether your boundaries are already flexing and you didn't realise it, or they're rigid and they need a little rebuilding, the answer is still the same. Boundaries work best as flexible systems, not fixed rules. So that boundary that feels rubbish to you, is it really broken? Or is it just flexing without a plan? What conditions are your boundaries creating and protecting this week? Try it out. Find one leak and patch it. And there you have it, your tasting plate, courtesy of the Beaver. Lens, layers, and leaks. Yum! Okay, tonight when you're standing in front of a mirror, brushing your teeth, get a little playful. Tuck that top lip up over your gums, flash those pearly whites, and stare yourself down. That, my friend, is your inner Beaver. Say hello and start building. And remember, patch your leaks before they flood. That's feral by design. I'm Pia. Thanks for the damn good tips, beavers. Fun fact, beaver teeth are orange. Ew, because they contain iron. They're literally metal mouths for chewing through trees. Next episode, prepare to pinch yourself and look the other way as we explore mosquitoes and their role in making injections painless. Just a pinprick, she says. You'll barely feel a thing. Psh, and Santa is real.